61% of people say clutter causes tension in their relationship. In many relationships, you know it causes tension. And in other relationships, especially if the messy one among you is not so messy, or you are so busy, there is so much that you need to deal with that you're not really communicating about this. Well, 61%, it means that's likely something for you at least to consider as a source of tension in your relationship. If you are the one contributing to the clutter, make it a priority. As I anticipate the holiday season, I just can't help but remember a couple I coached years ago. They really had a very strong, beautiful marriage, and the main reason that they wanted to work with me is to improve their communication, because there was no question that they really loved one another. They supported one another. He wanted her to thrive in life and was willing to extend himself to contribute to her success. And she wanted him to thrive in life and was willing to extend herself in order for him to strive in life. However, they had many miscommunications. There were the miscommunications that were the result of facial expressions, where she would be concentrating really hard to hear what he said, and he would understand that to mean that she was scowling. And she was surprised when he would ask, because she wasn't aware that that was the expression on her face, and inwardly she really was just concentrating in order to pay attention. And other times when he would be saying something and she would roll her eyes and she didn't even know it. It would go in both directions. A lot of my coaching of this couple was for the one who felt offended, rejected, dismissed, to kindly and cleanly state their experience so that the other one could be aware of their impact. And pretty much 100% of the time, the other person was like, oh, I didn't know. I didn't know I looked angry. I didn't realize I rolled my eyes. And quite honestly, I'm sympathetic to that, because one of my sons, he rolls his eyes, and when he was a teenager, I'd say, stop rolling your eyes at me. He'd say, I didn't know I was rolling my eyes. Like, there's something about eye rolling, which can be this dramatic gesture. And also, it is unconscious. And a lot of the communication that this couple needed to improve were communications and conveying emotions that were unconscious on the part of the person making the communication, but the person receiving it still had to deal with it. So we worked through facial expressions and different ways of communicating about logistics and what was a firm plan versus a potential plan. And they really were so responsive, and really things just felt better, more connected, more collaborative very quickly. But there was one area where this was not the case, because with the kinds of things that I've already described, they both agreed that there were miscommunications happening, that there were misunderstandings that literally evaporated once they heard what the other person's experience was. And so one of the main things that happened is that they could give one another the benefit of the doubt, because there were so many issues or moments where they took offense and felt rejected or dismissed or unheard. And then when they talked about it more clearly, as I guided them, they realized, oh, that wasn't the intention. But one area where this really didn't change quite so quickly is when it came to his stuff. Now, a lot of the time, women find it hard to take the mess, but I have coached plenty of couples where men are more sensitive to the mess and wish their women would be more intentional, more aware, more particular about where the stuff is as it blossoms and balloons around the house. But in the case of this couple, it was the more typical majority scenario where he just kept ordering interesting pieces of equipment. He had really 3 lifetime supplies of sweaters for the cold winters that they dealt with. And mostly he didn't even know what he had because he would get something. It would be in the living room. He would leave his shoes there. He just was not particularly fastidious about putting things away. And every now and then it would drive her crazy. And she would just move all of that stuff into the basement. And the basement really became a very unpleasant place for her to be. She never spent time down there anymore. And he didn't find it beautiful, like he has good taste, but it wasn't so problematic. And this is something that they never talked about. And the reason that I'm including it in this episode is because when it comes to your belongings, it's another place where you may be making a communication that is received by your spouse, even though you never intended to send it. Because in the case of this couple, he just was used to things being messy and really didn't think that much of it. He's a hardworking provider, and it just didn't make the cut to get his attention. Whereas she felt if he loved her, if he cared about her, he would understand how it was hard for her to relax when the space was messy. Do you relate? Are you both super neat? Are you both super messy? Or are you in the great majority of couples where one of you wants things clean and is annoyed by clutter and mess, and the other one is way more comfortable and doesn't even think about it, but contributes to the clutter and the mess? As we are heading into the holiday season, a time when many families accumulate more stuff, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the impact of clutter on marriages. First of all, 61% of people say clutter causes tension in their relationship. And the thing that I really want to emphasize is that in many relationships, it causes tension. And in other relationships, especially if the messy one among you is not so messy, or what is certainly very familiar to me with the couples I coach is you are so busy with your professional lives, with tending the children, with making sure when the drain is clogged that you deal with the sink and call the plumber if need be. There is so much that you need to deal with that you're not really communicating about this. Well, 61%, it means that's likely something for you at least to consider as a source of tension in your relationship. And if you are the one contributing to the clutter, make it a priority. The same way you brush your teeth and lock the door when you depart the house, make a point of finding a way to clean up after yourself, at least in the common spaces, or at least in the bedroom, wherever it is most irksome for your spouse. And if you are the spouse who feels tense because of the relationship, what can you do for yourself? Do you need to learn to be relaxed in the face of clutter? Do you need to put it all in a box or in a room and just get over it and not be resentful that you're the one who has to get it out of sight? Or is this something the two of you can talk through and come to agreements, which likely will need to be revisited? Because for the person who's used to having a lot of clutter, you can understand very well how irksome it is, but that doesn't mean that you can change the habit right away. This is a very established habit, how you relate to your belongings and how you relate to your space. So neither of you should expect an instant change or a sustainable instant change. However, this should be something that you revisit on a regular basis, so there's not only an improvement after you have a fight. More than 1 in 3 people say their partner's messiness makes them less attractive. So let me cut right to the chase. If you're a spouse who wants to be having more sex, more fun, more intimacy, well, if you haven't tried it yet, try cleaning up your shit in order to become more attractive. Because If you are less attractive to your partner because things are messy, chances are you cleaning up will be a form of love and appreciation, and your partner will notice the difference. 62% of women are likely to call their men messy, and 50% of men are likely to call their women messy. Now, I have not done a meta-analysis of the data, so I can't speak with any kind of authority on the statistics. And here's something else. 38% of those surveyed have secretly thrown away their partner's belongings. Have you done that? Have you wondered where things are and realized, I wonder what happened to them? Well, if a partner is throwing away your belongings, chances are you are messy, and there's so many, and your partner has tried a lot of other ways to tame the clutter, and this is the way it's going to go. So, first of all, I wanted you to be aware of these statistics and figure out if it's relevant in your relationship, and keep this in mind as you accumulate things during the holiday season. And I also want to give you a few practical considerations. I actually, as the oldest daughter, oldest granddaughter, only daughter, I have inherited a lot of things with the passing of my mother and my father, and 2 grandmothers, 2 grandfathers, and a great-grandmother. And when I first received these things, they carried the energy and love of my dear ones, and I couldn't imagine getting rid of them. But over time, with each of these losses and the evolution of my grief, I learned to let go of the stuff and instead opt for an aesthetically beautiful space without mismatched furniture, because I loved this table from my grandparents and this armchair from my mother. Anyway, I'm sharing this as context because I don't tend to have a lot of clutter, but I was at a point with young children and just a lot of stuff because of the losses in my life. So I took a deep dive into various decluttering programs. And the thing that I want to share with you is that I started with my own stuff. And then I went through and decluttered the things in the common areas. And then I went through and decluttered my children's belongings. It was only as a final move that I invited my husband to declutter things. And I actually have done this multiple times through the years. And I did that the first time, but every time after that, when I started decluttering my stuff, he was inspired to declutter his stuff. The point that I'm making is start with cleaning up your own side of the street first. If what you're really yearning for is for your spouse to get rid of a bunch of stuff, start with decluttering your own stuff and the common spaces, and get to where it inspires him because he sees how lovely it is, or it inspires her because she sees how lovely it is for the rest of the belongings to be decluttered and beautiful. Another thing I want to share that I learned actually from a professor of mine who became a dear friend, a college professor. And what she shared with me is that now she was single and an older woman. I think when she shared this with me, she was in her late 60s or in her 70s. At some point in her life, already when she was younger, she had decided that she was going to have a finite number of things in her home. So if someone gave her a gift, if she was going to keep it, she got rid of something else. I don't know exactly how she decided how many belongings. She probably didn't count them up, but there was just a point where she felt like she had a good number. So if anything was going to come in, something was going to go out. And I tried living that way for a little while. I think with children and different homes, there are a lot of contexts in which it's not the right thing, but it really taught me a new way of being in relationship with my belongings that I think is very helpful in marriage, because we don't want to be carrying around emotional baggage, and we also don't want to be carrying around physical baggage. So you might think that this was an odd topic for the Intimate Marriage podcast. And if clutter isn't an issue in your marriage, maybe it was. But if clutter and messiness is an issue in your marriage, you know exactly why I included this episode, and I hope it inspires you to take action. I also want to just share, because I'm just so excited, that my new app, The Intimate Connection, is now available, and there's a 20% discount if you want to try it out, plus a 7-day money-back guarantee if you want to just check out the app. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. If you're driving and you happen to remember, it's studio.com/Dr. Alexandra/intimacy, which of course is a mouthful. But if you search for Intimate Connection app, Alexandra Stockwell, you will find it right away, and you don't need a coupon code or anything so long as you sign up for the app before November 28th. You will definitely get a 20% discount, and I hope you really enjoy it. It's designed to enhance communication, deepen emotional intimacy, all of which pave the way for more sensual passion. And if you are stumped on how to navigate conversations about messiness and clutter, I highly suggest you check out the app. There's no particular module about clutter and messiness, but there are all of the essential communication tools to have successful conversations with your spouse on any topic. And clutter and messiness can be such a contentious topic, so I highly recommend you take the opportunity and learn how to have successful conversations so that your home can be an oasis, a place of peace and calm and comfiness with the right amount of stuff so that you can relax with one another and go out fulfilled and nourished each day and come back enjoying the space you share.